Question for my colleagues in Ottawa. If Trump follows through on his plan with tariffs, would you keep the Liberals in power and allow for the passage of a work relief program before supporting a non-confidence motion?
I'll just start off by the fact that I've spoken with a lot of workers who are deeply worried about what the Trump tariffs might mean. They say, sometimes I lay awake at night saying, if that tariff goes through, do I lose my job? And what's going to happen to my kids? What's going to happen to my family? When we think about the analysis that's out there, if those Trump tariffs come in place, there are hundreds and thousands of Canadian jobs at risk. Think about what that means for those workers, hundreds of thousands of workers, for their families, for those communities. This could be devastating for our country. So we do need to have a plan in place to support those that are impacted, those businesses, those workers, most importantly. I have not had any conversations with other opposition leaders. I think we need to come together to have a discussion about what is the best way forward. I've not had any discussions with the government related to this. If there is any desire to move forward, the government should call us together, like we did during COVID, and discuss a plan that supports workers. We, as a party of working people, a party founded by workers, want to make sure that there's a plan in place for workers. It's why we said from the beginning, EI is clearly not up to the task. During the pandemic, we realized EI does not cover the majority of Canadian workers. We called for changes to happen to EI so that we would be better prepared if something happens again that disrupts our economy. The Liberals did not listen. And so we are now in this position where we have an insufficient EI, the threat of tariffs, and many workers lying awake at night saying, am I going to lose my job or not? So I hope that there's a plan moving forward.
You are calling for a meeting. So this is the question about tariff relief. You are calling for a meeting of all the parties. Should one of the discussions be all of the parties working together to extend Parliament a bit longer to give more relief, to give tariff relief to people if Trump imposes his tariffs?
When we were in the pandemic and we were up against some serious worries about people losing their jobs, we had regular meetings where opposition leaders came together and were given information about what the next steps were, and we had to find ways to work together. We pushed for significant relief for Canadians. During that period, New Democrats were the ones that really fought for things, but really everyone came together. Similarly, if there's a plan, all the opposition leaders need to come together. There needs to be a government providing information about what the next steps are. That has not happened yet. The Liberals have not reached out. They have not brought together opposition leaders. We want to provide real supports for working people that are impacted by these tariffs, who are really worried. I want to see that same initiative taken. Bring people together and let's have a plan in place.
We will now go to James Bronskill with CP. Please go ahead.
Yes. So to be clear, Mr. Singh, would you be prepared to work with a new Liberal leader on some of the recommendations in the Hogue report that would involve tabling a new bill and bringing legislation forward? Could you see that happening before moving a motion of non-confidence?
Well, again, this is about the Liberals. Like, they can make that happen right now. They can make that happen before we get to a point where we need to table confidence votes. Confidence votes are scheduled soon, and I've said I'm going to be voting against the government. But the government's serious about this. They could bring in legislation earlier. They could take steps right now. They could put forward a plan to address the recommendations of Justice Hogue right now. I have not seen that plan. I've not seen that initiative. The ball is really in their court. If the Liberals are serious about this, they should do it. And so far, I've not seen any initiative that indicates to me that they're serious about adopting anything that Justice Hogue has recommended, while I think it is very important that we do so.
And again, to be clear, would you be prepared to do it with a new Liberal leader, since there will be a new one, March 9th, and moving forward with that leader on legislation to protect against foreign interference before the next election?
Really, the question still comes back to, would the Liberals have any initiative to do this? Like, if they want to do this, the recommendations are out today. There's nothing stopping them from saying, okay, we need to bring back Parliament and do something. So really, the question goes back to the Liberals. What do you want to do? Do you want to implement these changes? Are you going to implement these changes? The question really comes back to the Liberals. We do not know where they stand. We do not know if they're interested in moving forward or not. They need to answer those questions.
Mr. Singh, thank you for taking our questions. Previously, you said you would vote no confidence at the earliest opportunity, but you've been saying you want a relief package for workers, and you seem to be open to working with the government and opposition leaders to do that. If opposition leaders insist on voting no confidence at the earliest opportunity, would you still support the government in passing this relief package you're calling for?
Let us be very clear. There is nothing on the table right now. There is no plan on the table right now. There is nothing presented to me. There's nothing presented to opposition leaders. In the pandemic, what happened was the government called opposition leaders together and said that these are some of the plans we want to do. In that period of time, we also pushed the government to get more done. Nothing of that sort has happened now. Nothing of that sort is on the table. I've not been reached in any way. I've maintained my position that I'll be voting against the government at the earliest opportunity. If the Liberals are serious, though, about something, a plan that should be put in place to support workers, call the opposition leaders together if they're serious about it. Discuss that plan with us the way we did during the pandemic. I've not seen any of that initiative. They've not shown any sort of commitment that we saw during the pandemic. None of that has been shown now. So there is nothing on the table right now. As it stands, my position remains, we will be voting against the government at the earliest convenience. If the Liberals are serious about providing more support to workers, and I think they should, then bring the opposition leaders together, present a plan. They have not done that.
Thank you. And can you say what exactly you want to see in this in a hypothetical relief package for workers? You mentioned EI changes. Is there certain sectors you want to see support for? What exactly do you want to see in that?
Yeah, I can outline some of the elements of my plan. First of all, some of the elements of a plan that I would put in place if I was prime minister would be similar to what we raised during the pandemic.